Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning back in with us on Understanding the 12 Steps. Today we're specifically taking a look at Step 8. In this, Step 8 says that we humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Now when you're thinking about the idea of Step 8 and you're lining it up with Scripture, Luke 6:31 is the one to think about. In that, it says, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." Now, the idea of that seems to be quite simple, but yet it is so complicated for people such as you and for me, especially when we have various aspects within our life called addiction, and we have a tendency to do a whole lot of damage along the way in seeking what it is that you desire to have or to get, or that next the pill, the next fix, the next drink, whatever it is, right? But the idea of Step 8 is that it is the beginning of the process of making amends, forgiving others, and possibly even being forgiven by them, as well as, in addition to, forgiving yourself. So oftentimes people forget to add themselves to this list. But by making a list of people that you had harmed and becoming willing to make amends, you're taking action towards actually experiencing healing within inside your life, right? Healing from past hurts, healing from past things that you've done to harm others. It could even be past things that have been done to you that somehow, some way, how are you involved within what's happened to you? I'm not saying 100% of the time that what's happened to you is even a part of your responsibility, but how you respond to it. And so when you put yourself down on that list, that's what you're taking a look at. You're also taking a look at how to live your life with the rest of the world with your head held high. When you come in, you're coming down beaten down and broken. And a lot of times your head is held down because you've made a lot of wreckage and a lot of damage. And Step 8 is that step where now you're going to make a list of all people that you have harmed, right? And you're going to become willing to make amends. But it's also about identifying the damage. You have to take a look at it. Oftentimes, we want to run, we want to hide, we want to deny, all these things that we don't even want to acknowledge. You don't even want to acknowledge the damage that you've created. And oftentimes you think now just because your life is all better, that everything is all good. Step 8 reminds you, just because your life is all better doesn't mean everything is all good. Not all relationships are all good. The amends needs to happen, which is why Step 8 becomes so critical in the process of that. But there's also something else that you have to take in store is when you're making that list, is you have to have a sponsor come up alongside you as you're making that list, because so oftentimes, more than not, you're going to want to run out and you're going to want to make those amends, and that sponsor is going to be there to help you to navigate through, is it safe to even do so? See, some people may not be ready for you to actually apologize and make that amends, make that living amends. They might not be ready. It might even be dangerous for you to do so. You may even create more damage in the process of doing it. So as with the beginning of the steps, I recommend, and I'm sure everybody else would recommend, not even starting Step 1 without a sponsor. You have to have a sponsor to help guide you through all the steps. By the time you get to Step 8, though, you're not only working your program, but you're involving other people in your program as well by making the list and becoming willing. So you have to take a look at that and have a sponsor who's already traveled down this path to help you discern whether or not is it safe, maybe it's not that you don't do it right now, you're just not doing it yet. So oftentimes we want what you want it right now, but right now might not be the time to do it, right? It's also making that list and have you left anyone off the list. It's so easy to take a look at the things that are obvious, who you've lied to, who you've cheated on, who you stole from, but there's other amends that you have to make as well. And you have to take a look, is there any kind of emotional amends? Maybe you didn't steal from somebody or lie to somebody, but maybe the dynamics of the friendship or the relationship, maybe it's with your kids, maybe it's with siblings, maybe it's with your spouse, maybe it's with your job. It could even be maybe the owner or the grocery store clerk, just anybody and everybody. Maybe it's an amends to a business, in an establishment, and not just a person, but you're making a list. Leave nobody off the list. The idea is that you do it thoroughly, you do it prayerfully, and most importantly, you do it humbly, right? But you become willing to make that list, and you become willing to make amends to them. Now, some of the people on that list may also be people that you bullied. Again, like I mentioned, that you cheated on, that you treated coldly. And trust me when I say you don't have to be an addict to bully somebody. And you don't have to be an addict to treat somebody poorly. And you don't have to be an addict to have cheated on somebody. So if you're watching this and you're somebody that is struggling with any type of anxiety or mental illness, or a mental health challenge, whatever's going on, just know the steps are for you as well. And when you're making the list, I guarantee you, being human means that you have done something to affect somebody outside of yourself in a negative way, and in a way that deems it necessary to make amends to them. But again, do not forget to put your own name on that list. Doesn't mean that you become the first one and the only one. It's just that you cannot neglect it. Because so oftentimes things have happened within your life that you blame yourself for, that now you have to learn how to forgive yourself for as well. And making the amends to yourself, I have found, is probably one of the most difficult things to do, and it's a lifelong process. But as you consider step 8, and having a sponsor becoming even more important and more necessary, right? I also want you just to think about that willingness aspect of it. So oftentimes we are reluctant. Why? Because it's uncomfortable. And I don't know about you, but I know for me, it is hard to press into the uncomfortable, and it is easy to become reactionary and run away from it rather than to step into it. See, there's a difference between running away from and stepping into. The goal is in step 8 is you're going to step into it. Don't run away from it, but also don't run right into it as if you're going into it. It's going to be a train wreck that's going to happen, right? But also then you have to ask yourself is when you're thinking of making that amends, see, it's a living amends that you're making. It's not a one-time thing. It has to become so evident within inside of your life that it's more than just saying you're sorry. So oftentimes we become like the boy or the girl who cried wolf, and saying I'm sorry becomes kind of like the standard mantra that you say, where at some point the I'm sorry no longer cuts the mustard. It no longer does it. All of a sudden people no longer want to hear your I'm sorries. They're just not ready to be so quick to say everything's okay and everything's all better, because the reality is sometimes and oftentimes it's not. That's where the living amends comes in. See, the idea of this is it's not a one-time deal. It becomes a way of life. When you make the list, what I live today, the moment I step in tomorrow, today is my yesterday. And the moment my today becomes my yesterday, somebody else might have to be added to that list. See, each and every day, once you've lived it, it becomes a part of the past, and you have to see who are you adding to your list of those people. And if you're continuing to create wreckage and to create damage, your list is going to continue to grow. But the idea of this is that step 8 actually never quite ends. And it's not that it's a negative or a derogatory, it's actually a positive, and it helps you stay aligned, stay in tune, because you're pressing in and you're becoming willing to make amends to people that you've harmed. When you first work this step, it's looking to the past. But I guarantee you, every single time you work this step, you'll be looking to the past. Every single time you work this step, you might actually even be looking to the present. Who are you hurting? Who are you hurting, and who are you harming right now? And the idea is not just the willingness, because the willingness without action is just a dream. It's just a potential and a possibility. It's not a reality. The goal of step 8 and having the willingness is that it becomes a reality. So the willingness is just so that way then the ultimate step is taking the action to go do it. And so just know that as you're working step 8, the purpose of step 8 is that you make the list, you become willing, and then you actually go do it. And you're guided, you're directed, and you're supported by your sponsor, that person who's going to help you discern, but help you to not avoid and not rush in, but to not run away. All right? So I want to encourage you, if you haven't already taken a listen to steps 1 through 7, go back and take a listen to those steps. Next week, we're going to dive into step 9 and take a look at what that step is. But the steps are in order for a reason. So I hope that you're not just listening to this one on step 8 and you haven't taken a look at 1 through 7. You will not be getting the full benefit of what each and every step has for you if you don't do them in order. It's a building block, one on top of the other. And listening to me right now, although I think it's fantastic that you're here and you're listening and you're viewing this, but this right here isn't the beginning and the end of the step. This is an overview. The goal is that you're going to dive in and you're going to work this step thoroughly. And just know that life is a process, the steps are a process, but when you make them a part of your life will get better. But I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you next week when we dive into step 9.